Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daily Fan Racing YouTube channel. I'm your host GordoGambles, and today we are talking about NASCAR Cup Series. We are talking about Gateway. We are in my backyard, or my new backyard actually. We're talking about a race that's happening that I could potentially be going to. So I'll be actually listening to Ryan for once. I'm just kidding. I always do, and he's doing me pretty well. But we are talking about a very fun race this weekend in St. Louis, and we're happy to be joined by always as Mr. Ryan Larkin. And welcome back, my friend, in Jason from DFS NASCAR. Let's pass it to you first, Jason. How are you doing? How was your week last week? And you looking forward to the race this weekend?
Yeah, it was good. Got some nice relaxation last week. Took the weekend off of doing content. Was down in Ohio visiting family. Obviously, it wasn't even on the podcast last week, so it was kind of no content at all. So that was kind of nice. Cook it kind of light approach on the races and casual, which means I jammed Ross Chastain in a lot of lineups because it seemed like a fun thing to do. It did not work out too well for me. But I think I still, scraped by with like minor losses, so not too bad. Had some beautiful barbecue. I smoked a pork shoulder for about 15 hours. It was awesome. Whew. So good weekend.
Sounds awesome for sure. Speaking of awesome, how did your friend Ryan Blaney do, Mr. Larkin?
He did fantastic. Me, not so much. Actually, I did fine. I doubled up on the cup race, but yeah, that sucks. When you literally have one driver that keeps you away from everything, and you're just watching it, and you're like, I know he has the best car. Can he please wreck? Can he please have a tire go down? Can anything happen?
That's what happens when I have the best car in my lineup. When it's my guy out there, he's 11% owned, something's always going to happen. Because I actually had a lineup with Chris Bell, and he was looking solid to start, 11% ownership, and I was thinking the same thing, and then,
issue.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's what's happened. So Richmond, I was like ridiculously overweight on William Byron. He was optimal until he wasn't. He wrecked. Martin Truex at Darlington, same thing. It's happened in the reverse like 3-4 times this year where you have the field covered. You're locked in. You got the optimal plays. You're all in 20 to go. It goes out the window, right? Praying, hoping, never happened. Blaney had him covered. So congrats to him. First win in basically 2 years. And I still don't trust him. Still don't think he's going to be a great play going forward, but good for him.
It's awesome when we have one of our favorite videos me and Ryan have done together on the premium side of Daily Fan Racing. But we did talk about we've been chirping Blaney for the past 2 weeks. We talked about someone else who did do poorly, but some good times, and I'm looking forward to some more. Good
Briscoe
times.
Got it. Yeah, I definitely was hard on Briscoe.
You were, and he deserved it. But it's funny you didn't talk that bad about him this week, but last week talked bad about Blaney. He proved you wrong.
Oh God, I buried Blaney last week. I kind of felt bad afterwards.
When did you bring Ryan Baumel on to host the show with all the Ryan Blaney love to start? This is the exact segment he would have had.
It's just because of all the things Ryan was saying. I had to just get back at him somehow. Either way, this is where I get selfish. And we talk about a race that I am the most excited for a race I think I ever have been. Because if I do end up going to this, I'm going to be dialed in. I'm going to be ready to go. I'll be playing all my lineups. I'll be maxing a couple contests. And I'll be with the help of you guys. So let's break into it. First things first, we're going to pass it over to Jason. We're going to talk about the track info and the insight you have here. Please tell me what to expect when I'm going there and what the Gateway track is as a whole.
I don't want to break the news to you, but it's not going to be a very exciting race. At least last year's race, when you go back and watch it, not a lot of passing through the field. Basically the race last year played out by who came off pit road, pit strategy. Basically whoever was out in front led the laps. I think we saw Michael McDowell lead 30 laps. Briscoe, who started on the pole, was going to, lead the whole first stage if he didn't have a tire issue. Then he gave it away to Cindric, who led a lot. There was not one pass for the lead under green flag through the whole race until the very end when I think Logano I saw passed Kyle Busch with 33 laps to go. That was the only pass on track for the lead. So I hate to break to you, it's not going to be a whole lot of action in here. Now, when we talk about the actual track, Gateway, it's not a short track. Technically, it's 1.25 miles, but it is kind of run like a short track because it is a flat track. So they have to get off the throttle in the corner. They're even shifting now. So it kind of really runs like a short flat track, and that's why you're not seeing passing. It's not the same short track package they run on the short tracks, but still going to be very difficult to pass. I think when you look at last year's finishers, 9 of the top 11 finishers started inside the top 13. And that was even with a race that saw, the field jumbled up at times with different pit strategies and that kind of created an opportunity for multiple drivers to get to the front. We saw 7 different drivers lead 84% of the laps. And all of them, again, were guys who started in that top 13, guys who basically, took 2 tires on a pit stop, jumped up and was able to lead a bunch of laps. And that's basically what you're going to see for dominators this week. So play the guys in the front is what I'm saying.
Play the guys in the front. Sounds good. And yeah, Dustin is saying talk too much about it not to go. I get it now. I got to go there. I'll rep my my nice Daily Fan Racing hat. Maybe I'll get a shirt that says some DFS NASCAR promotion. Both of you guys back there too. Show some love. But oh yeah, maybe not. But it does throw a little bit of a damper in there. And usually I don't go to Ryan for any anything positive in my life.
Kind of add, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I did forget to talk about the other important thing about this race is we're going from the longest race, of the year last week at the Coke 600 to now one of the shortest races. It's only a 240 lap race as well. So it's going to go very quick, and these stages are going to go very quick as well. The first stage is 45 laps. It's very likely the guy who starts on the pole doesn't have issues is going to lead that first stage. They don't need a pit. I think the pit window is 70 laps. So even the second stage, they're going to run as long as possible without a caution. So when those cautions fall is what's going to be is what's going to matter on how this race shakes out. It's not going to be about the fastest car, I feel like.
Sounds good to me. And as I was saying, I don't usually go to Ryan for anything positive or to bring up my mood at all, but do you agree with what Jason's saying there? And if so, what type of race should we expect?
So you're going to have a very good time there, Gordo. It'll be fun, entertaining. They'll have concerts. They'll have fire on the backstretch. It'll be a good show. You won't know what's going on anyway, so it's okay, but you'll have fun there. Watching on TV, that shit will be boring. Everything Jason said is true. We saw track position, and this isn't really a surprise. Track position is everything with this car. And last year, we saw Michael McDowell stay out on old tires, lead 34 laps. They weren't able to get by Michael McDowell on old tires. That perfectly illustrates the advantage of being out front with this car at this track. Part of the reason for that is everyone's really tight and close in terms of lap time. They're all pretty similar, I would say. And when you get behind someone who's running basically the same lap time, it's incredibly hard to pass them. So I do think we'll see much of the same. Pit strategy is going to be vital. I think we'll probably see maybe if we do see cautions, we'll see a bunch of guys gambling. We'll see huge shakeups in the middle of the race. And that's really where we're going to get frustrated. Maybe someone will sneak up there and kind of break the slate as a result, I believe. If we get long green flag runs, which we expected last year, which we did not get this year, then they'll have to pit every time the caution comes out, and we'll get a more standard, predictable race. We saw at Martinsville, I'll use this as an example, but Ryan Preece checked out. He was unbelievable the first 2 stages. He got back in traffic after a pit penalty, never to be heard from again. Couldn't get through the field. It didn't matter. He was a 20th place car. So I think that's kind of what we have to expect and look at from this track as well, in terms of track position mattering and everything. So from a fan aspect, it's going to be difficult, but I do think it could be a fun race for DFS purposes, and that's really all we're here and care about, right? So hopefully we can find a way to optimize it.
I will say the thing about last year's race, though, is what kind of caused a lot of those cautions. We're still dealing with tire issues. I think we had 3 cautions that was a result of those that left rear tire going down in that race, which caused bunch ups, which caused, further more cautions on those restarts. So I do think there's a possibility, for this race this year to set up to where we see one guy kind of just crush the field like we saw Larson do at North Wilkesboro a couple weeks ago for the All-Star race.
Fair play. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't watching the the year ago post that NASCAR just did, the ending to last year's St. Louis race.
Right. It was actually a good ending with Logano and Kyle Busch going at it. But, I think that actually I had it in my notes. I don't know if Jason's going to get to it or not, but Penske were first, second, and third in practice. They all qualified up front. They were the best team by far. They had a clear advantage. And Joey Logano was only able to lead 22 laps. He won. He made sure he was up front. but he wasn't able to get out front and just pull away and dominate the field. Combined, the 3 Penske drivers all led. Cindric led the most at 26 laps, and combined, they only led 60 laps when they were the clear best team. And that, I think, is another illustration of how this race could kind of be awkward. But you can also see a driver like Logano, if his car is just flat out better, he goes and leads 150 laps and wins. So it's tricky. Last year, I think, was an oddity that I'm kind of throwing out in a lot of respects. I'm trying not to read too much into it, except for what the race can be in terms of track position. Like we can utilize that stuff. But last year's race was very weird because of tire stuff, like Jason mentioned. I think it was Briscoe led the first chunk of the race, had a tire issue, and then again was never heard from again. He ran 20th the rest of the day. So the track's weird, and we only have one race, very small sample size.
To add on to the Logano take there is he did, like you mentioned, fastest car in practice. He started 7th and ran, around there the entire race. He didn't actually, the only way he got to the front was that when the caution came out about 35 laps to go, he took 2 tires, gained 8 spots to restart in 3rd, and then was able to pass Kyle Busch on that 2 laps into that green flag, which was the only pass for the lead in the race.
All right, interesting stuff there, but let's get into it. If we are looking at a race that's hard to pass, talk to me about some lineup instruction, Ryan. Are we looking and really waiting till qualifiers for this one?
Yeah, we definitely want to see practice and qualifying. I think from a basic standpoint, you're probably just looking for, I want to say 2 dominators, but there were 6 drivers that led 20-plus laps last year. So it's hard to weigh like, hey, I want this many dominators or anything. I think I want at least 2 top-tier drivers. I want 2 guys that I think have huge upside that could lead 80, 100 laps. That's basically what I'm shooting for. If this is a traditional, I don't want to, like Jay said, it's not really short track, but a traditional shortest track race like a Phoenix, like a New Hampshire, we should expect 1 or 2 guys to be the main dominators, and that's basically what I'm going to go with. A smaller lap total than those 2 races. They have 300 and 312. This is only 240. So basically looking at 2 dominators, and then Jason mentioned it again already. There wasn't a lot of place differential plays that panned out there. We saw a lot of guys that started up front, finished up front. Speed was speed. Like, again, fast cars go fast. The fastest cars just basically were able to stay towards the front. They never lost track position overall at the end of the race. So for me, I'm definitely going to be looking to pinpoint who the fast cars are in practice, qualifying who's up front, who I think will be able to maintain that track position, and as a result, get a good finish. I think it's less about, man, I need these huge dominators and sacrificing bottom of my lineup. I think it's probably a little bit more of a balance, trying to hit mid-tier guys that can get us 40 points and have a very strong lineup throughout with 1 or 2 main dominators.
Yeah, to the position differential point, there was in the race last year, there was 8 drivers who scored more than 10 position differential points, and 7 of those guys started 20th or worse, and all of them but 1 scored over 40 points. So they were in play, but I think the thing that they didn't get there because of they had a fast car. They got there because of pit strategy. It wasn't the guys you would have thought. Like if we saw Hendrick Motorsports showed up and they all qualified poorly, and they were all the position differential plays last year. They just ran bad. They had fast, they may have had fast cars, who knows, but they were just stuck in track position, never really got the track position to get up front. So it's like, even if you play the position differential plays, like it's not necessarily going to be about the guys who have fast cars. It's just about who makes that right call, that right strategy. So you can kind of get different with position differential plays, I feel like, this week, and not land on those obvious guys who, like even Harvick, I think last year qualified 30th and only got up to 20th. Or no, that was Keselowski, who qualified 30th, started 20th. And Harvick also, I think he started towards the back and didn't really move up too far towards that race. And so
Harvick was running 8th when he had his brakes fail. Like he had a bad brake failure going into 3, which sucked because I had him in a very crucial spot. But that happened late in the race, and it seemed like some guys were battling some brake issues in that race as a whole. There's a handful of complaints with that, but Harvick making his way kind of towards the front, it's not a surprise. He's pretty good, but like he said, you got Brett Keselowski who's only able to get to 20th. The majority of the guys that moved forward, it was like, I think it was Justin Haley, Austin Dillon, and like it was just guys who literally what Jay said, use pit strategy. So it's hard to pinpoint who's going to be able to do that. And if we get more of a standard, like a standardized lineup where Austin Dillon's not starting 32nd or whatever, although he's had a really bad year. But if we get more of like the Todd Gilliland starting 32nd, you're not going to play them in the expectation that they're finishing 17th. So that also limits some upsides. I think the one good thing about that is you can be more random about it. You can take chances. If the whole field's like, oh man, Austin Dillon starting 30th, we're going to play him. He's going to be 28%, 30%. And then you got, I don't know, I'll say Noah Gragson, even though I don't trust him. Noah Gragson sitting there and he's going to be 12%. Well, who's to say Noah Gragson doesn't just do a wonky pit strategy and finish 20th? So I think that's kind of the key for this race. If you can take a lot of random chances.
I don't mind me some random chances. I'll tell you that for a fact, but let's dive into it. I want to hear what you guys' thoughts are initially, especially prior to qualifying. I know it's going to be something crucial here, but let's dive into it nonetheless. Jason, we're going to throw it over to you first, but actually before we do, guys, please make sure to hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, show some love here. Now you can go ahead, Jason. Who is your top tier driver to watch this week?
Driver I'm going to watch, the man who I guess was the big talk at the start of the show, finally sealed the deal after the long drought at the Coke 600 last week. I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney. If you look at, this year in 2023, he's been, the strongest car in the Penske camp. He's had speed. It seems like he's had speed other weeks that a lot of the other Fords and the other Penske drivers were, kind of terrible. He's been running top 5, been consistent. And we all know Penske has historically always been really strong on the short flat tracks. They're one of the only one of the teams whose 2022 short flat tracks actually speed translated to Gateway. Like, I think that's the big thing is everybody's trying to think of, what's the comparable tracks to Gateway? Like, I looked, there wasn't a lot that transferred over as far as speed from Phoenix to Richmond to Gateway last year, except for the Penske camp and Ryan Blaney. He was really fast at all those tracks, and he showed up really fast at Gateway. He was the only guy in the field who I felt like was actually able to drive through the field, make passes with his car last year. He had the most fast laps in that race, and that's with only leading like 12 laps. So he had a really fast car, second most fast lap, while only leading 12 laps. He finished 4th. He's been really strong at qualifying, right? He only qualifies up towards the front of these short flat tracks. Penske shows up with speed to qualify. I think he's going to ride that momentum, and he should be a strong play. If he shows up with speed and he qualifies up towards the front, it's going to be hard to ignore Ryan Blaney this week.
All right, Ryan, do you have anything good to say about Ryan Blaney this week, or are you going somewhere else?
Good-looking gentleman. I don't know. No, he was second at Phoenix earlier this year. He obviously had the best car last fall at Phoenix as well. And so if we're using that as the best comparable track, he's been really good there. He was good here last year. Penske as a whole was good here last year. I think the short flat track program is more where they have some speed this year. Like, that's been more of where we've seen them run good. But, yeah, I mean, Blaney's a good pick. I think, anyone – who can run top 5, and I also kind of like that Blaney's a little bit cheaper. They can run top 5, click off some fast laps or laps led, is in contention this week. And so, yeah, Blaney's fine. He definitely checks a lot of boxes in terms of peripherals, so to speak.
You never told me who you're going with, though.
Oh, God. I kind of forgot. I remember now. I looked at my notes. William Byron. So the biggest thing about William Byron is he has dominated at Phoenix and Richmond this year. These are 2 short flat tracks that I think are the best comparisons, and he looked great in both. He's scored 47. I got the note somewhere. 47 and 51 fast laps in those 2 races. So it wasn't just laps led. It was he had a lot of fast laps. The car had a lot of speed. We juxtapose that to last year where they were horrible here. The entire Hendrick camp was horrible. I mean, even when Byron was able to get to 15th or 16th, he would drop back. He would lose positions. He would struggle throughout that race. So we got the top 2 guys, him and Larson, are the top 2 guys in pricing for DraftKings, and they may not be good at all. They may not even be factors in this race if we go based off of last year. And that's the first thing that jumps out to me. So where is their speed? Is it going to look like last year, or is it going to be what we've seen so far this year? And so I'm very, very interested. They're my driver to watch because I think not necessarily that they're going to be dominant and win, but that they could be bust and traps and not good play. So very interested to see what they do in practice and qualifying. If he goes out there and grabs the pole, then I'm going to play him. Anyone that's sitting on the pole is going to get a lot of action from me, but very, very interested to see what William Byron's speed looks like, because last year they were not good. They were lost here.
Yeah, I think – oh, sorry.
One last thing I forgot about, I meant to say this earlier, that's not in my notes, is they have 3 wins. They dodged the penalty with the Louver deal earlier this year. They're kind of locked into like a top 3-4 spot in the playoffs at this point. We have 10 race winners so far. Playoff points are spread out, but Byron's got the most. He's in a great position. Are they testing? Are they looking forward to Phoenix? Are they using this as a race to really try to gain some more information to be ready for the end of the year, in which case they may not just even show up. They may end up running an alternate, setup or something different to try to learn for the playoffs, because they are comfortably in where they are now. And so that crossed my mind as well. And as a whole, it's just making me wonder, is William Byron just set up to be a complete fade this week or not? So I'm very interested in practice and qualifying.
I like the angle you're taking with the who to watch on that, because they are a team that, if HMS shows up and they do qualify 12th or 14th or 15th, they're not qualifying up towards the front, then that it would be, right in line with the speed they showed last year. We know his track position, can they gain it? It's only a 240 lap race. Can they get there and lead laps to, pay off those huge price tags they have this week? So,
yep. Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
Good job. They checks all the peripherals.
I like that saying. I don't know why.
We're going right back to you, Ryan, though. Who's your mid-tier driver to watch? Are you going for that same route of someone you're looking to potentially fade, or is it someone you're really looking forward to seeing this week?
No, it's someone I'm actually really looking forward to seeing, and it's Eric Almirola. So the first part about this is he's 7.2K. That's Jason's, damn it.
Oh.
Spoiler.
Eric Almirola, 7.2K. Short flat tracks, Eric Almirola's bread and butter. It has been since day one. He's great on this track type. I think he was 5th here last year. Stuart Haas, if I had to pick one track type that they've been good at, it's this style track. They all looked great at Phoenix. Was it Almirola that had the wheel come off at Phoenix?
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Yeah, okay. So, again, he was going to run great there at Phoenix, had the wheel come off. Harvick looked really good at Phoenix, which isn't a surprise, but just as a whole, Stuart Haas looked good there. I think they'll translate good to this track as well. And then he finished 5th in this race. Harvick was running top 10 before the tire, issue or the brake issue. Briscoe led early. So we saw them with some speed at this track type and at this track last year. I think it translates well. And then 7.2K is really cheap. I mean, that's a very good price for someone who can score 40, 45 points in this race. And I wouldn't really be surprised. If he qualified 10th, I'd be like, yep, good play. I can see a good, nice, solid 7th, 6th place finish and get me a good point total. So very, very excited about that play. But there's also a lot of good plays in this range this week. A lot of guys like Brad Keselowski or Corey LaJoie, which I know Rick has been pumping LaJoie in our chat over here. But Corey LaJoie's in a very good spot at a low price, lower than he should be. So I'm interested to see how this area plays out, but Almirola is probably the one I'm most interested in.
All right. Well, Jason, I have no idea who you're going to pick for this mid-tier, and I don't think anybody else does either.
I don't know either, but let's let him see it. Finally, all the suspense. I'm going to go with Alex Bowman here in this range. Obviously, we know Hendrick Motorsports has had, the best equipment all year. We talked about, what kind of speed is curious what kind of speed they're going to show actually here at Gateway. But Bowman, he's seen an uptick in his performance on short flat tracks as a result of that extra speed that Hendrick Motorsports has found. He's top 10 at both Phoenix and Richmond, while having the 4th best average position at Richmond after starting on the pole. So he had a lot of speed at Richmond. Also, I feel like Blake Harris at crew chief gives him a bump as far as pit strategy is concerned. Having that guy on the being able to call pit strategy. He was able to get Michael McDowell up towards the front to lead some laps last year. So you get Bowman at a guy at 8,600. They can definitely get him out there. Make the right call, get him out there to lead some laps. He was also, not only did he got McDowell in the front, he had a pretty good car underneath McDowell for that race. So he had a good setup on there. So I'm pretty confident, Blake Harris is going to have a good setup underneath that car. He's got the equipment. This car is going to be fast. It's going to have a good setup underneath it. I'd like him more if he qualifies towards the front, but I think he's going to be a guy who, even if he qualifies 12th or 13th at this price tag, you can play him hoping that, he finds his way to the front off some pit strategy.
All right. Well, I'm tempted to put Ryan's driver to watch up for you next, just to mess with everybody. But we're gonna go right back to you.
Real quick before we transition, where are you at on Corey LaJoie jumping into the 9 car, Jason? Are you Are you high on him? I mean, was he 7.4K? He's cheap. Do you have high expectations, or you think it's just kind of a non?
I hate to say this, but I think he chokes, man. Like I think I like he's got this. It's this one chance. Like he's been talking so much about just give me the opportunity, right? Just put me in the equipment. That's all you hear from him. Oh, I drive these crap cars. Like now he's got his chance. Right. I mean, it's going to be the world of weight on his shoulders to drive this 9 car. Everybody's watching him. I mean, I think he chokes, man. Like I don't know. Like I don't think he pulls it through. Like I think it's going to draw.
What's a good result for him? Top 15?
Top 10. I think you got to get top 10, right? Top 15. He's been getting top 15 all year in the ride he's in now, right? Top 15, top 20 is what he's been in. You got to do better. He's got to get top 10. He's got to be shown on TV. Like he's got to be there. He's got to be in the mix. I feel like top 10.
There you go.
All right, Jason, bring her home. Value tier driver to watch.
Value tier, I'm going to go with Michael McDowell. I already mentioned about his great run he had here last year, right? This was a standout performance for this team on short flats at this track. He was terrible on short flats all year last year. Like, I mean, if you look, I mean, finishes, average position just was dog crap. And then, Gateway came and he had a pretty good ride underneath him. The car was fast. He got up front, led some laps. And this year, he's been a lot better on short flats. Let's see here. This year, he's obviously been a different story. He finished 6th place at Richmond, 13th at Phoenix. He started inside the top 15 at both those races, so he qualified well. He's a guy that I think if he qualifies inside the top 20, nobody's played him, and he's already shown he knows how to hold on that track position. He knows how to take advantage of it. It's a short race. I think, if he qualifies top 20, you get him for very low ownership. So, yeah, I definitely want to see how now, if he qualifies 30th, I'm not going to want no part of him.
He was actually kind of sporty at Northwest World too before before the crash happened. But I think he started like 8th, found his way up there battling Ty Gibbs for a transfer spot. Like,
yeah, he's been really good on short flats this year, like surprisingly, because they were terrible last year.
I blame Blake Harris.
All right.
I don't know, right? Maybe I should goes against my Bowman pick, I guess.
Wasn't it Ryan's Bowman pick? I'm just playing with you. Ryan, bring her home. Value tier driver to watch.
Mine is someone I'm actually really excited to talk about. I was very disappointed in him at Martinsville, but I've been pushing Carson Hocevar since he debuted. Like, this has been a guy I've been super high on all the way back when he first started running trucks. He was someone that I pretty much pinpointed to be a Cup driver in a few years that I thought was going to win at the Cup level, that I thought had a lot of talent. He's finally starting to show the upside. I mean, he's getting truck wins. He was able to go into the Xfinity car the last 2 races and essentially run top 5, French top 5 in both races at Darlington and Charlotte, which are tough races. So I really like Carson Hocevar as a driver. I'm excited to see what he can do. He's jumping in the 7 car that LaJoy typically, like Jason said, can finish top 20, that has some ability in it. It's definitely a back tier car when you're relative to the rest of the field in terms of what they have. But I'm just interested to see what he can do. Maybe not as much from a DFS perspective, but again, a pit strategy can see them finish 20th, and he might have qualified 30th. We can see strategy come into play. So I do think there's a DFS aspect at 5,400. Ryan Sparks, crew chief. I miss David Smith's Motorsports Analytics. I wish we still had him out there giving us all the info. But Ryan Sparks basically is the best at getting track position for his drivers. He's the absolute best. And so, and a lot of that's because they run 27th. Like, let's be fair. Like, he's jumping 26th, 25th, 24th, right? Like, it's an easier group of drivers to jump. But he's great at making pit calls and gaining track position. I think this is a situation where Hocevar, with a short 45-lap stage 1, can stay on the lead lap, can stay in contention, and then kind of work his way up to being on the same pace as everyone. They pull a pit call, and all of a sudden you get a guy that's kind of overlooked because he's a rookie driver in his first race who's finishing 22nd with 30, 35 points and might be a sneaky DFS play. So I am interested for that, but in general, I'm just interested in Carson Hocevar because I've been a proponent of him talent-wise. Hopefully he doesn't right rear anyone this week. Hopefully he's got off that boat, but I am excited to see him in the Cup Series. I do think he can do a lot of good things, and I think this is a good track for him. I think Gateway's actually a track he can run pretty good at. in terms of having experience, and he's looked decent here in the Truck Series. So I think he can have a decent day relative to the rest of the field that he's competing with.
Yeah, and to add to that, as far as concerned with this track and guys who've had no Cup experience, making their debut here, we saw Zane Smith last year do it in the 17 car. Obviously, much better equipment, than probably what Carson Hofer's in, but he was still able to drive it to a 16th place finish. So
beat Keselowski in the same equipment, right?
Yeah, exactly. So.
So this is a track type that even in the new car is going to feel a lot more like what he's driven in the past. It's something he's going to be comfortable with. I think he has 3 truck starts here already, so I'm not super worried about him getting up to speed. And I'm going to be positive for once in my life, and I think he could have a good day.
Wow, what a world we are living in. Well, I'm going to keep that positivity going. You know what, Ryan? I'm going to go right back to you for that positivity. You get rewarded, and you get to talk about your race winner.
Oh, my race winner, yeah, Kevin Harvick. I think Kevin Harvick's going to win this race. We've been looking at him on short flat tracks kind of all year. He looked great at Phoenix. We were heavy on him at North Wilkesboro because of that. I'm kind of throwing North Wilkesboro out the window. It seemed like a lot of teams were just completely hit or miss. I don't think, Kyle Busch is a 20th place car. I don't think Brad Keselowski is a 20th place car. I don't think Kevin Harvick's 20th place car in normal circumstances. The All-Star race kind of, I'm ignoring it, right? But Harvick, been great at Richmond, been great at Phoenix over the past couple of years in this car. I just feel like this team has really good speed. They have a really good pit crew. They have one of the top 5 pit crews on, out there, and that's going to help with track position. So I think if they have a really good qualifying effort, that Kevin Harvick's going to be battling in the top 5 all day. And I like the fact that they need to win. I like the fact that it's go time for them. They need to go ahead and secure themselves, lock up, because as I mentioned earlier, 10 guys already have a win. Pointing your way into this championship's getting, again, much like last year, harder and harder. So I like to see him get a win. I think this is probably their best opportunity outside of like Daytona. But as far as on pure speed and out racing everyone, this is probably their best opportunity. And I think he gets it done.
I hope so too. I love me some Kevin Harvick. All right, Jason, let's wrap it up. We talked about all our drivers to watch, talked about one race winner. Who are you picking for your race winner? Is this someone we've heard you talk about before?
I don't know, man. I thought about going Blaney again here as the winner but it's so hard to go back to back in the Cup Series. So I don't think he actually comes through for the win. But I dug. I looked around. I looked at all the stats. I tried to see who's that guy. I really tried to not go to this guy as fear of completely driving off the fanboy cliff. But I'm going with Ross Chastain. I mean, there's a lot pointing to Ross this week, and I promise, I'm not just being a fanboy. Okay, he's been really solid on short flats this year. A top 10 contender at Phoenix. He had the third best average position. And the 4th best fast laps percentage at Richmond. So he showed some speed at Richmond. Basically, he was the 3rd best car at Richmond behind that HMS duo. Qualified really strong in both those races, which is going to be imperative this weekend, right? I think he's going to show up with speed and qualify, top 5, top 6. Last year's run here, he was fast, right? I mean, he was moving towards the front at the start of that race before the Denny and Chase drama that really ruined his day and set it back. He was, like I said, running top 4 before that fiasco, but he still rallied in that race for an 8th place finish. He had the 4th most fast laps without leading a single lap. He won here in 2019 in the trucks, but the real big edge that Ross Chastain has here is his pit crew, right? We've talked about that the pit strategy and on pit road is going to be so important this week. Gaining spots on pit road is going to be massive. It's going to be much more imperative to gain spots on pit road than on the track. This race is going to be determined by a race off pit road, and this one team is going to be the ones to put Ross Chastain in victory lane finally in 2023.
Right.
That's all you got for that one? I thought you were a Chastain fan.
His boss told him he needed to calm down. He got in trouble. Chevy jumped in there and said, hey, stop wrecking our guys. You can't race like that anymore. And he goes and runs 20th back-to-back weeks. I don't really see a whole lot in Ross Chastain right now. I think he's neutered, and I think he's going to struggle. I think top 10 might be the best-case scenario for old Ross right now. Might be jumping off the bandwagon myself personally.
Well, I think that's the best news Ross Chastain has gotten is Ryan just bashed
Ryan's
him.
Joe
So just
Fun.
like Ryan Blaney, he's going to win now, right?
No, I really like Ross. Everything Jason says is true. Ross he was strong here last year. I mean, very strong. He was probably one of maybe two people that can move through the field, and move through the field consistently. Like he still finished. Where did he finish in this race? 8th. He literally went to the back of the field because Hamlin was trying to wreck him.
Got wrecked by Chase.
By the way, those two like throwing tantrums, don't they? Hamlin and Elliott, they just can't help but throw tantrums. But yeah, he had a lot of issues through the middle of the race and still drove up there, still got a good finish. And so, he's very, very good at this track. And I think a lot of that is his aggression, his ability to drive in deep. Like you saw it at Darlington. Nobody drove in deeper than him at Darlington. He just, I don't want to say muscles his way through it, but that's kind of what it is. And I feel like same thing applies here at Gateway. He's able to just drive in deep. That's what got him into trouble with Hamlin. So he just outdrove Hamlin into the corner. And sure, he made contact, but he just drove it in deeper and still is able to make it rotate and get off the corner. And so he has a feel for this track for sure. And I completely agree. I really like him.
What happened with the Hamlin incident, though, is we're going to see a lot of it this week, is the result of it being so hard to pass, right? I mean, Hamlin held up Chastain for 40 laps in that run. Like, I just rewatched the race last night. Like, Chastain had the fastest car, was on the inside to pass him 5, 6, 7 times, and Hamlin still just running hard, in the first stage of the race. The same shit he would complain about somebody doing to him. I'm sorry, but like, I mean, if you want to get spun out, like that's what you do to get spun out. Like you hold up a faster car, right? I mean, for 40 laps, like literally for 40 laps. I watched it. I rewatched it last night. It was over and over and over and over. And Ross Chastain clear had the fastest car. Like at some point, you got to move over, let him go, or you're going to get wrecked, right? I mean, it's first stage.
Yeah,
okay.
Danny.
Well, that's going to wrap it up here on the DailyFanRacing YouTube channel.
Sorry, go to the YouTube.
I hope so. I hope so. For an
let's check it out. My low battery just has been on for a few minutes, and I don't know how much longer I got.
Well, tell them where to find you, my friend.
All right, DailyFanRacing.com. We have 4 races this weekend again, so lots of content coming out. Took down F1 again last week, so we'll try to do that for like the 6th time this year. I don't think that's a surprise. I'm basically the only real person covering that knows F1. That understands the lack of passing that they offer and how it correlates to a race, apparently. But we're going to look to take that down again. I'm really excited for Gateway, but I'm also excited for Portland. I think that's going to be a really good standalone event. I think there's a good crop of road course racing in the Xfinity Series right now. Austin Hill and Sheldon Creed add to that. They're not traditional drivers that you would consider maybe race-winning threats all the time, but this week I think they're great contenders for the win. I'm really excited about that, and we'll see a bunch of random road course drivers and random rides that we get to decipher and figure out who's going to be good. So I kind of like these standalone Xfinity races on road courses because they're completely different from what we see most of the year, and that makes it fun. That makes it challenging, and hopefully we get to win more money. Hopefully we can have some success. So everything's there. We got a newsletter just dropped. Sign up for that. Subscribe to this channel. Do all that stuff. And I think I might do some sort of giveaway for our subs. So be on the lookout for that. I don't know what it is, some sort of contest, and we'll have some fun with this weekend.
Sounds good to me. All right, Jason, what about you? Where can they find you, and what you got going on this week?
Yeah, you guys can find my stuff over at runpuresports.com. I put out a free article, obviously, every Sunday morning. I have a breakdown of the race, cheat sheet, core plays, all that good stuff. It's put out for free, runpuresports.com. Make sure you can follow me on Twitter at DFS NASCAR. Sometimes I drop some videos. Not sure if I'll have time to get one out this week, but always dropping little nuggets of knowledge there on my Twitter timeline as well. But the article, that's the big thing. Check that out Sunday morning.
Well, just under 40 minutes. I appreciate everybody for joining us this Thursday night on the Daily Fan Racing YouTube channel. We covered ourselves the Gateway Cup Series race, and I look forward to talking about more stuff with Ryan on the Daily Fan Racing Premium podcast later this weekend. I appreciate everybody for joining us. Make sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. Show some love to these guys right here. You can follow me on Twitter at Gambles Gordo. Feel free to talk some MMA there. I'm no NASCAR genius, but maybe one day if I keep listening to these gents right here.
Ooh,
but once again,
Gordo,
go ahead.
Brett's going to get me on a podcast.
Oh no, when?
I don't know, but it's happening.
We will talk some MMA soon then. Next weekend is the Canadian MMA card, and I'm out of town, so we'll see how that goes. Yes, we do love the hat, and we love all of you for tuning in and joining. Appreciate all you guys. Best of luck this weekend. Let's make some money, guys. Peace.